course I know motherfuckers want to kill me.
Hey, y'all, man, they done shot FBG Duck in the Gold Coast of Chicago, bro.
This film shows how a rap quarrel turned into a full-fledged federal murder probe, and how Durk sanctioned the hit that killed FBG Duck. It's all over again now that the feds are officially connecting Lil Durk to the murder of FBG Duck, which was one of the most heinous drill hits ever seen on tape. Now, let's get started. Let me briefly describe what actually transpired for anyone who might not be familiar with Chicago's drill politics. Two of the most important characters in the game are Lil Durk, a member of O Block and the Black Disciples, and FBG Duck, who was representing Tuckville and the Gangster. Disciples the story that has been unfolding via federal investigations, civil lawsuits, and court documents presents a picture that is darker than anything Hollywood could imagine. Family, these were more than simply rappers squabbling over bars and rhythms. This was some long-standing gang politics that had been smoldering for over a decade. Only the Family Durks Collective, which investigators are now categorizing as a criminal operation, is involved in the alleged bounties, planned attacks, and conspiracy that reaches the top levels of the date that changed the drill scene. In Chicago Forever was August 4, 2020. Carlton Weekly was involved in while shopping for his son's birthday in broad daylight. Duck was shooting himself to death outside a Dolce & Gabbana store. A bystander and his girlfriend, Kashake Williams, were caught in the crossfire.
Hey, y'all, man, they done shot FBG Duck in the Gold Coast of Chicago, bro. In the Gold Coast of Chicago, bro.
This is where things get really wild. Though, because the lengthy complaint that Duck's mother sent to Lasha, Weekly suggests that this hit was more than just a street quarrel gone wrong. Directed from the top, with King Von allegedly placing a $100,000 premium on Duck's death and Lil Durk serving as OTF's puppet master.
Our complainant law lays out that a $100,000 bounty was placed on the life of FBG Duck to have him killed.
It was clear that the federal government wasn't playing games when Charles Liggins declared 6 O Block members guilty of Duck's murder in January 2024. Robertson, Kenneth Thomas, Christopher Ralph Turpin, and Carlos offered when people discuss Durk killing Duck on film, they aren't simply referring to a few cigarettes. These were Durk's men, his soldiers who were allegedly following orders from the highest echelons of the leadership. They are referring to the full digital trail of evidence that prosecutors have been gathering, which includes social media posts, music videos, lyrics, and phone records that allegedly show how this whole scheme was planned, executed, and then celebrated. For instance, she was shown the AU video, which was made public months prior to Duck's death, and in which Van's character is shown killing Duck. The lawsuit claims that this was a part of an intimidation campaign meant to frighten Duck before they really pulled him out. Prosecutors determined that the film, which has amassed 350 million views on YouTube, was a threat rather than merely amusement. While the rivalry between O Block and Tuckville was already well known on the streets, Durk's alleged use of his wealth and influence to transform local feuds into a corporate conspiracy is what really makes this case strange. We're discussing record labels such as It's Made Extra Strange by Ralph Turpin. Allegedly implicated in this case are Sony, Universal, Alamo, and Empire, who are charged with profiting from real-life street violence while disregarding the consequences. One of the responsible shooters apparently had communication with a phone number associated with Durk's brother Dang around the time Duck was discovered and killed. However, it was supposedly a premeditated operation with communication flowing all around, not just a chance street encounter. The killing of FBG Duck was not merely another casualty of Chicago's gang conflicts. It was purportedly a corporate decision taken at the top of one of the most prosperous collectives in hip-hop. The courts are just catching up to what the hood already knew, but the streets have been talking about this for years. As this background is necessary to understand why things got out of hand, let me analyze the level of disdain that Duck was exhibiting before his death, as they did when Duck passed away. According to the song, certain Oblak members who have passed away have ridiculed their passing and questioned their street cred in Chicago's drill culture. This, according to the prosecution, is the most serious infraction and the reason Duck became the target. In essence, he was spitting on every gravestone as he strolled around a Block cemetery, in addition to rapping. The case argues that by weighing the benefits and drawbacks of removing one of its primary rivals, F leadership made a well-informed business decision. We are not talking about some irascible young guy getting swept up in the moment and reacting. Emotionally, this is not your typical street beat. Murder allegedly becomes both profitable and personal due to the business purpose. Think about the cooperation required to do this. The person with the authority to approve must have been watching. The movements of the Ducks, that is not street-level thinking. Rather, it is corporate-level criminal conduct for shooters to risk life. Sentences in a whole organization that is prepared to make money off the aftermath of a hit in broad daylight in one of Chicago's wealthiest neighborhoods.
2 vehicles pulled up. 4 individuals exited those vehicles, 2 from each vehicle, and began firing at the individuals that were on the sidewalk outside of one of the stores here.
The social media element of the case illustrates how modern criminal conspiracies play out in the digital era. Every Instagram post, Twitter conversation, and YouTube video is used as evidence in a RICO case. The same platforms that made these artists famous are now being used to document their alleged transgressions. According to the lawsuit, F operated as a criminal enterprise that coordinated and funded street violence using resources from the music industry, profiting from the mayhem they created. Every piece of evidence suggests that F is more than just a music collective, and the evidence keeps mounting up like building blocks. The story becomes much more dismal as a result. It is that Duck supposedly made an attempt to alter events. Prior to his death, people believed that he was attempting to make atonement when he paid tribute to slain members in his 2019 song Chicago Legends. But the streets never forget, and it appears that the federal government isn't helping this case either. 102 times in the 229-page case, indicating the prosecution's conviction that money and power were the main factors at play. Allegedly, every music video viewed, every social media post honoring Duck's death, and every stream of a diss tune generated revenue for the defendant. Nowadays, the conflict involves more than simply 2 rappers. It's about the music industry allegedly made street violence into a profitable business model by supporting singers they knew were engaged in real criminal behavior. Because controversy sells and authenticity pays. But as we are going to discover, through the paper trail and digital footprints, after setting the stage for what happened, has the potential to change how we think about drill rap and street politics. Now we're talking about wiretaps, federal probes, and a computerized surveillance system, not simply rumors from the barbershop. It is really disturbing that the paper trail claims to connect Lil Durk to one of the most heinous killings in Chicago history that took place during the day. The government didn't find this case by accident. Rather, they have been building this conspiracy accusation piece by piece, and each piece of evidence clarifies how said to have operated as a criminal organization posing as a record label. We're talking about a level of structure and planning that goes beyond the typical street beat.
These individuals murdered Mr. Weekly as part of their effort to maintain or increase their position in the O Block.
Let us start with, she asked me how high I get. I told her, high as a duck. The prosecution claims that Durk's 2021 song, Should Have Ducked, was a victory lap rather than just a trash song. It was Durk, the lawsuit said, and he wasn't just playing word games. It's basically profiting off Ducks. Passing by exploiting the murder as publicity, but it's more than just a single song. The lyrics to Durk's 2024 song Monitoring Me include the line, I don't have to pay anybody to do anything. "I've got killers as all my friends." Although prosecutors do not view these lyrics as works of art, they are understanding them as a confession. Remember Durk's tweet that said, "Rip Nusky on the same day Duck got killed." The social media evidence is much more incriminating. Both the detectives and the streets noted the timing and the pattern of social media activity around Duck's killing is claimed to show a planned murder. Durk allegedly acknowledged having a crew of shooters on the payroll. In the lawsuit, Van was not only Durk's artist but also F's underboss, accused of planning hits and placing bounties on heads. D took her to the O video, which has gotten 350 million views, wasn't just for fun. The King Von angle is where this whole story really comes together, followed by the response from F members who seem to have expected it. There was an alleged public threat against Duck's life. The most interesting part is in the phone logs. Communication reportedly flowed up and down the F chain of command during this coordinated effort, and it was no coincidence that Ralph Turpin, who told the black gunman where Duck was, had a phone number associated with Dang Durk's brother and alleged lieutenant. According to financial records, every time Duck's name was mentioned in a song or his death was brought up in an interview. Every stream and view allegedly translated into profit for Durk and his crew. The lawsuit illustrates how F became a global brand by glorifying Duck's murder. But it's not just about the money, it's also about the alleged monetization of violence. Allegedly turned street credibility into commercial gold in a methodical way. With the more real the argument, the more attention they received. And the more real the violence, the more streams they received. Duck's death was allegedly a business opportunity rather than just a street politics incident. And the relationships with the record labels further complicate this story. Empire and Universal Alamo are all titled, accused of deliberately profiting from violence while disregarding their artists' illicit acts. In the case, the lawsuit claims that these companies took singers with criminal records because sales are driven by controversy and authenticity.
The killing and then the celebration of the killing and the continued killing, all on the name of profit.
To give you an idea of the actual sophistication of this alleged enterprise, the prosecution said it was not a case of some little street merchants trying to handle meat in a traditional manner. Multi-million-dollar firm that allegedly partnered with big labels for merchandising, distribution, and touring operations, and that planned and financed illicit actions using legitimate corporate structures, vandalizing dead Oblock members, and acting as fronts for what the prosecution describes as a continuous criminal organization, arguing that a pattern in the timing of incidents shows premeditation. According to the AU video, the Tooker allegedly replies by threatening the public by putting a bounty on Duck's head, and when Duck is discovered and killed in broad daylight, word purportedly gets to F leadership. Given the date and place, it was a planned operation, and the story of that day speaks for itself.
Hey, y'all, man, they done shot FBG Duck in the Gold Coast of Chicago, bro. In the Gold Coast of Chicago.
The 6 O-Block members' trial witnesses provided evidence of the alleged conspiracy, and Duck's baby mom testified about the continuous intimidation and harassment from F members, proving that this was a personal matter rather than just a music issue. The O-Block snipers were able to locate Duck while he was on the Gold Coast, which is far from his usual range. This level of coordination and intelligence gathering is not something that happens by chance. It was deliberate and allegedly top-down, coordinated. The federal government's RICO strategy for this case shows that they are treating F like organized crime, with prosecutors asserting that street gangs and music labels have joined to form cybercriminal enterprises. The same tactics that were used against the mafia are now being applied to drill rap collectives. This case is even more intriguing because Durk was later arrested for murder on more serious charges related to Duck's mother's civil complaint aims to prove a pattern of illegal activity that reaches all the way to the highest levels of F. The feds are using the shooting of Rondo to demonstrate a pattern of behavior that allegedly shows F as an ongoing criminal organization, including the same claimed retaliation for King Von's death that was planned using F resources. With Durk reportedly calling the shots from behind the scenes, as a result of the allegations, Durk lost his honorary key to the city of Broadview, Illinois, and his local Heroes Foundation lost its partnerships. The 230-page document reads like a federal indictment and includes specific allegations that Durk used his influence, money, and platform to plan violence against his rivals. Social media posts about the street response have been equally illuminating, revealing a community that is both weary of the violence and protective of their own. The same streets that made Durk famous are now questioning whether the cost of his notoriety was worth it. The fallout and its implications, the case's repercussions, are ongoing. The fact that the community starts to distance itself from you speaks volumes about the seriousness of these accusations. Prosecutors say one of the biggest names in hip-hop was responsible for a systematic pattern of violence. Not just one murder. Let's face it, Durk didn't just let the beef go when Duck was slain. He reportedly applauded it. The alleged extent of this conspiracy and its implications for the future of drill rap were demonstrated by the way it spread throughout Chicago's streets and the music industry as a whole. The civil lawsuit's legal strategy, which names not only Durk but also major record labels and even the city of Chicago Ducks, is brilliant in its breadth. The Duck song was not only disrespectful, but Durk was also accused of using Duck's death as a means of making money. When Duck's mother, Luca Weekly, heard the lyrics, she became alarmed and organized, leading to the significant lawsuit that is currently threatening to bring down F. The family is painting a picture of institutional failure that goes far beyond street politics, alleging that the labels exploited the violence, that the police were sluggish to respond, and that they were responsible for the entire situation.
As a company, when you realize that you have a dangerous product and you're pushing that dangerous product out to the public, you have a responsibility to ensure that that dangerous product does not injure or hurt or harm anyone.
The timing of Durk's arrest for the Quando Rondo murder could not have been more ideal for prosecutors working the Duck case. When the feds caught Durk in Florida, they weren't just accusing him of one crime, but of establishing a pattern of behavior that supposedly shows F as a continuous criminal enterprise. And it is hard to ignore the parallels between the Quando Rondo hit and the Duck murder, both of which are alleged to have involved bounty. Both were retaliation for previous killings and were allegedly covered in Durk's fingerprints. The government is using the same tactic they used against organized crime families, showing how hip-hop collectives may function as modern criminal syndicates. The fact that prosecutors are using Durk's own lyrics against him when he raps about having murderers as friends, using them as evidence when he makes references to certain murders in his songs, are being used to prove his knowledge of and involvement in illegal behavior. This is not a form of artistic expression to the federal government. Rather, it is a confession. The music industry is keeping a close eye on this case because the implications go far beyond Durk and F. If prosecutors can show that record labels are complicit in violence by promoting and supporting musicians with criminal histories, it could totally change the music industry. The community's response has been complicated, revealing that the fathers of Durk and Duck recently came together to promote peace. But amid all of this legal drama, there is still hope for healing, and the streets are also waiting to see if justice will finally be served for Duck's death. The lawsuit against Sony Universal and other major labels is essentially arguing that they are accessories to murder. Prosecutors argue that the case's staggering financial ramifications, including millions of dollars in sales from performances and merchandise, were a result of Duck's murder. Posts and conversations on social media that claim to show cooperation between F members at the time of Duck's murder continued to build evidence that F allegedly made money off of violence each time a song about Duck's murder was streamed. The impact on Chicago's drill scene has been profound. as prosecutors have been painstakingly crafting a timeline that allegedly shows Durk's involvement from start to finish. And because it is hard to erase the digital evidence of a conspiracy. The line between criminal confession and artistic expression has never been blurred more globally. And young musicians are now paying more attention to their lyrics because they are aware that prop is IoT, because they are aware that what they say in songs could be used against them. In court, her advocacy efforts have transformed Duck's mother from a distraught parent to a strong advocate for change. And the attention this case has received shows the global impact of Chicago's street politics. Drill rap has gained popularity in the UK, and prosecutors in New York and other cities are monitoring how American courts handle the connection between music and criminal behavior. The way the federal government handled this case could set precedents that drastically change how businesses approach signing controversial acts. If courts rule that record labels can be held accountable for the criminal acts of their artists, the authenticity that drill rap places such a high value on could become a legal liability. There is a system that allegedly profits from the deaths of young black men in Chicago. Represents a new phase in their approach to fighting organized crime by considering hip-hop collectives as criminal families. Prosecutors are changing RICO laws to reflect modern scenarios where criminal groups use music and social media instead of traditional mob tactics. From street shooters to executives at major labels, the network of suspected collusion keeps growing. Illustrates how modern criminal organizations can include both legal and illegal activities. As this case moves through the courts, it is becoming clear that Duck's murder was allegedly just one part of a larger pattern of violence that the prosecution alleges F was responsible for. Due to the systematic nature of the alleged offenses, this case is currently very risky for all parties involved. F's future is in jeopardy while federal investigators continue their investigation, building their case. Durk's conviction on these charges could lead to the demise of one of hip-hop's most successful independent labels and serve as a warning to other musicians about the perils of fusing street politics with the music industry. The drill rap ecosystem is already feeling the commercial fallout from this case. Other musicians are distancing themselves from the violent jargon, and record companies are being more cautious. Stricter security protocols. Authenticity is becoming more costly than it is helpful. This case is particularly significant because it is forcing the music industry to acknowledge its role in profiting from real violence. The action against major labels aims to not only make them pay, but also to force them to acknowledge that their business strategy sometimes depends on the case focuses on whether the music industry can continue to profit from real-life street stories without endorsing the violence they depict. Performers who actively engage in illegal activities. The question is, when does sponsoring contentious art turn into funding real crime? Duck's family's lawsuit essentially argues that there is no explainable difference between funding and if Lil Durk's and F's criminal activity is what makes them authentic. The case's long-term effects will likely go far beyond that. If prosecutors are successful in demonstrating that hip-hop collectives can function as criminal enterprises, and that record companies can be held responsible for their artists' illegal acts, the music industry's operations may be fundamentally changed. Authenticity may finally be too high a price to pay. The outcome of this case could determine whether the cycle of violence that has taken so many young lives will continue, or whether the system will hold those who profit from that violence accountable. Duck's murder was allegedly a well-thought-out commercial move made at the highest echelons of the music industry. Not just another casualty in Chicago's conflict, and the streets of Chicago are watching this case closely. Growing evidence that the music industry operated as more than just a music collective as federal prosecutors continue to construct their case suggests that hip-hop's most successful independent labels were actually a criminal enterprise that used music industry resources to fund and coordinate actual violence. A story about how illegal activity has permeated the music industry. not just about two rappers fighting. Industry itself. So that concludes this in-depth analysis. Stay tuned for more delicious content, such as this incredible subscribe button. Click the bell to get notifications. View the cards that are on your screen to view more movies. Don't forget to leave a comment with your thoughts.